Welcome to another edition of Jazz Smack Postgame, where the Jazz played at home tonight in front of the Delta Center fans against the Washington Wizards, who are currently battling the Jazz for the top draft choice position in the NBA. And the Jazz got a win tonight, so they moved ahead of Washington in the standings. Let's go ahead and talk about it.
Jazz Smack, your source for information and analysis about the Utah Jazz and NBA basketball. Jazz Smack is a community for passionate Utah Jazz NBA fans.
So the Jazz did get a win tonight against Washington in front of the Delta Center fans, and overall there were a lot of positives with the way the young guys played in their box scores. The team shot the ball well overall. They got a lot of assists. They had few turnovers. So all those were positives, and there were a number of guys that shot the ball really well. Filipowski shot it well. Collin Sexton shot it well. Collier shot it well. Keyonte George shot it well. And Brice Sensabaugh also shot it well. So that's really rare for all those guys, that many first and second year players. Well, Sexton's obviously a veteran, but that many first and second year players to all shoot the ball well on the same night, that's obviously very rare for this particular Jazz team. So from that standpoint, they made a lot of shots. It makes it a little bit more interesting rather than just missing a whole bunch of shots and missing a lot of threes. That wasn't the case tonight. They also shot the three ball well. So it was a positive from that standpoint. You know, it was a watchable game, and it seemed like the guys were, for the most part, fairly upbeat. I mean, they got a win. This is the first win in a while, even though they were playing the team that they're really battling with for that number one draft pick position, and now Washington is ahead of them, which isn't a positive for this upcoming, lottery. But still, I mean, the team got a win. We'll see how many more they get the rest of the season. There's only 12 games left, and it's probably, it's going to be tight going down to the wire, battling for one of those three worst positions. And I don't anticipate very many more wins for the Jazz. I mean, this is one that was few and far between, and it was kind of a rare case where they're also playing a team that's obviously trying to lose games for the most part this entire season. And so it would have been a difficult situation to lose this game tonight. So the Jazz got a win. Any thoughts?
Yeah, it clearly was a tough one to lose. This one was at home. Like if it was in Washington, we could have reasonably lost that game. But in Salt Lake City, where the Wizards were trying to lose, it was really tough. Now, I think both teams didn't play all of their players. You look at the minutes, we're going to get to that. You can see that. But it was a tough one. So I think we have to look at we knew this one circled coming in, that the Jazz were likely to win this. As we said, we as fans and analysts want the Jazz to lose. At least the two of us want the Jazz to lose. At the same time, the players don't. The players want to win. They haven't won in a month. We get that. They're out there trying to win, and they should. When they're playing, they should play as hard as they possibly can. They should try to grab every rebound. They should try to win. They should try to knock the other player over, and they did that tonight. So we have to be happy with that performance. Yes, we won the game. That hurts us vis-a-vis Washington, but this was one of the ones that was tough. Honestly, if we don't get the worst record in the league, it wasn't because of this game. It was because of games earlier in the year where we played to win when we should have played to go young. So I can't be upset about this game for that reason, because this, as you said, you are dead on. This is a tough one to lose.
Yeah, it was. I mean, the Jazz are in a position playing this game at home where it's nearly impossible, unless you absolutely just throw the game. It's a very difficult one to actually lose. Like, they would actually have to purposely throw the game, like turn the ball over on purpose, things like that, to actually lose this game. I mean, Washington has the worst plus minus in terms of point differential. They have the worst in the league, and it's not even close. They're by far the worst. So just going into this game, you knew that, well, there's a good chance, regardless of what the Jazz do, the Jazz are going to come away at the win. And I know that everybody who listens to this and watches the team and roots for the team, they want the high lottery pick, and they're hoping for the best lottery pick possible. And I think there's probably a consensus out there that lottery pick, if the Jazz were to get the number one pick, that they like the Jazz likely select Cooper Flagg. Now, whether Cooper Flagg ends up being the best prospect in this draft, I don't know. I haven't watched enough college basketball or enough international basketball to know. But, that's kind of what the Jazz are playing for right now, is the opportunity to get lucky in the lottery and pick Cooper Flagg. And that's just kind of the way it is. And it's not going to change between now and the end of the year. Jazz have 12 games left. And that's just the way it is.
Yeah, absolutely. And, they're doing that, and they're trying to play and see who are players on the team and develop players that they think are going to be players on the team, and then testing other ones that are probably not going to be players on the team, but to see if they will or won't. And that's what we're doing right now. And honestly, I think tonight was a good test of that. And I think going to the box score, you'll see, it was a good test of that, to kind of see some of the players, how they would develop in game situations, et cetera, and we continue to see that. So that was it. But this was a, like you talked about the biggest plus minus. Let's face it, most of that occurred when they still had Valanciunas and Kuzma on the team. Most of that was during that time. Yeah. They no longer have those two guys. And so that's how much worse that team is than when they had Kuz and when they had Valanciunas, both real, quality NBA players. And so this is a tough team right now. They got some young talent, but that's a let's just be very honest. That's a very bad NBA team, by far the worst NBA team.
Yeah, it's by far the worst team. They've been so bad this season. That plus minus is. If you get below 10 in the NBA as a plus minus, you are really bad. And that's where the Wizards are. So it's incomparable. And it's really, I know they've won some games recently. Now there are there are a number of teams tanking in the NBA right now. So if you play one of those other tank teams, you're going to get some wins there too. And the Wizards may have actually improved by eliminating Kuzma, who was obviously disgruntled there. He did not want to be there, and he got moved to a better situation, obviously sending him home to Milwaukee and a team that's actually playing for something rather than being in Washington, which is in a similar situation to the Jazz right now. The Jazz obviously have more talent than Washington. They have more veteran talent with Sexton and Lowry. The Jazz actually do have some veteran players who are good, rather than the Washington Wizards, who have some really old, broken down veterans now. Chris Middleton's old and broken down. Marcus Smart is old and broken down and has very little athleticism left in the tank. He's basically done. So that team's just not sitting in a similar position to where the Jazz are right now. But anyway, let's go ahead and just take a look at the box score of what did take place tonight and go through it a bit. So as I said, there were a number of players that did shoot the ball really well tonight and had really nice stat lines. And again, like last game, Hardy really distributed the minutes evenly throughout a bunch of players. He played a bunch of guys more than 20 minutes or close to 20 minutes. So nobody's getting major minutes. Keyonte almost got 30. Isaiah Collier almost got 30. Cody Williams almost got 30. And then everybody else is well below that. So it's just really, he's just distributing the minutes. It seems like he's going to ride it out this way the rest of the season. He's obviously trying some different things on offense. Walker Kessler, for the third game in a row, has shot a whole bunch of threes, which is very odd, but that's what he's doing. He obviously hasn't made a lot of threes. I think he's 2 for 17 or something over the last 3 games and 3-pointers. So it's not exactly a good percentage, but he's doing something different. So you could look at it and say, well, okay, I want to see Walker do something different on offense, and he is doing that, whether you agree with it or not. I mean, we did see that tonight and the previous 2 games.
Yeah, let me say this about Walker Kessler, because there's a couple thoughts I had on that. One, you look at his rebound total tonight, and it's less than it has been. You're not going to get a lot of offensive rebounds if you're sitting out on the 3-point line. So even if you make him a great 3-point shooter, let's assume you do, he seems like he's the best offensive rebounder now in the NBA. And so you're taking that asset away by making him shoot 3-point shots. So that's like the first thing I would think Hardy should think about before he's like pulling him out and making a 3-point shooter. One positive in his poor shooting for the 3-point line is Walker, just like Rudy, they wanted to shoot 3-point shots. It's hard for a coach to tell them when they can hit, batting practice 3-point shots. When in the game they go 2 for 30, you have some evidence to go back to them and say, maybe you shouldn't be shooting 3-point shots next year. And maybe they actually listen to you. So maybe there's actually some thought behind that Hardy's like, okay, let's see how this goes. But if it doesn't go well, it actually maybe help me go to Walker and say, Walker, maybe just stay underneath the hoop. We want you there.
Yeah, I mean, obviously Walker's not a 3-point shooter right now, so I don't know what exactly Hardy's thinking is. It's obviously debatable, but Walker is not a 3-point shooter right now. He doesn't look particularly comfortable shooting it, and I wish there was some in between thing that he could work his way out to the 3-point line rather than just go directly from playing within 5 feet of the basket to out to the 3-point line. And then there's this huge gap in between. And so, yeah, I don't like him sitting out on the 3-point line either, because that's taking away from his strengths. His strength is being in the paint. And so he obviously only played 15 minutes tonight too, and he still got 5 rebounds. But still, the 5 rebounds is not a good rebounding night for Walker. And I don't know. This isn't my preferred use of Walker. I'd rather see them do something else. I want his offensive game to expand, but I don't want to move out to the 3-point line. But that's where we are right now, so we'll see.
Let me ask you a question on that too. If you're Walker Kessler, and by shooting 3-point shots this year, you drop out of the number 1 field goal percentage for a guy with a lot of minutes, whatever, because obviously there's some people that took 1 shot and hit it and have 100%, but people that have meaningful shots, he's number 1 in the NBA right now. How would you feel about that? Like, he's happy out there gunning, right? But would you rather finish an NBA season with the leading field goal percentage, or would you rather go and, chuck up 3-pointers?
Yeah, I'd rather finish with the best with the best field goal percentage in the NBA. I think that's better for Walker and his next contract too, certainly, rather than having a really low 3-point percentage, which is what he's going to have. I mean, he hardly shot any threes before the last 3 games, and now he's shot 3 games with reasonably high field goal attempts from 3. And his 3-point percentage at the end of the season is going to be, regardless of what he does from here on out, it's going to be really bad, just because of the last 3 games.
Yeah, but think about it. Best basketball league in the world. Incredible basketball players overall. Even the guys that are stiffs that are sitting on the end of the bench, they're good players. Like, we've seen them warm up in warm-ups, and they never miss. You are the number 1 field goal percentage in the NBA for a season. That is an incredible accomplishment. If I'm Walker, I'm going back to Hardy and saying, like, whoa. Well, I don't know how far he's ahead, so maybe he's like way ahead that it doesn't matter. But I would absolutely want that accolade where you have that forever for the rest of your life, that I led the league in field goal percentage 1 year. I mean, that's an honor. It's an accomplishment. So I hope he doesn't lose that.
Yeah, me too. I think that it would be a mistake for them to throw that away at this point. Walker didn't play a lot tonight, and then Kyle played 21 and a half minutes, but Kyle shot the ball really well again. The 3 balls going in. He goes 8 for 11 from the field, 4 for 6 on 3, 4 rebounds, 2 assists. Obviously, those are not some of Kyle's better numbers in terms of rebounding and assists, but the 21 points, leads the team in scoring on really high efficiency again, and he's shooting the ball, 3 ball really well again. I mean, everything is still trending correctly for Kyle. I'm surprised they actually aren't playing him some of the most minutes and instead reverting to Keyonte and Isaiah Collier, and especially Keyonte is the leading minutes person on the team. Seems a little odd, especially when Kyle still, these are really important development minutes for Kyle from now until the end of the season. I want to see where Kyle is to the end of this season, and I assume he plays summer league, but I'm not sure. He's playing so well. It's going to be a question who actually does play summer league. Kyle's playing well enough right now that maybe they don't take him to summer league. It's hard to say, but everything's trending right for the guy. He has all these skills. He's shooting the ball really well. It's trending in the right direction for him, particularly, maybe more so for him than anybody else on the roster.
Yeah, it's the only thing that's baffling with Kyle with me is the free throw shooting. With somebody with his stroke, not being able to hit a free throw is really interesting. 1 for 4 from the 3-point line, 60% for the year. But click on him and see what's his 3-point percentage now for the year. I bet it's kicked up over 40%, which for a rookie is incredible. 39.4. So that's great. And this is a guy who was tweaking his mechanics during the middle of the year, and he's 39.4. It is impressive. The rebounds, the assists, everything. What a skilled player. The handle. He's done some really good, he just got skills that you can't teach is the wrong word. He's got skills that have developed over years and years and years. These are skills that you just don't pick up. These are skills that he has worked really hard on, that coming into his first season at Duke, he was, acknowledged for and thought was going to be a high draft pick. And then for some reason he dropped in the second round, which I still can't understand.
Yeah. And his numbers, if you, even his rookie numbers, if you say, okay, what if he plays 30 minutes a game, and you extrapolate that out, that means he's getting about 8 rebounds a game, and his points are, another 4.5 points a game, which puts him up to like 13 points a game, 8 rebounds, shooting 52% from the field, 40% from 3. These are really the only negative number he really has in his box score is that free throw shooting at 63%. But obviously he started out the year much worse than that, and he's improved from that. So I'm hopeful for next year that he can actually be in somewhere in the 70s at the very least, and hopefully the high 70s. It's hard to say that. A lot of guys, there have been a lot of guys who've been good shooters who have struggled from the free throw line. I think Bobby Hansen was a decent shooter. Bobby Hansen was a terrible free throw shooter. And there's obviously going to be a lot of people listening to this podcast who has no idea who Bobby Hansen was. Bobby Hansen was a 2-guard for the Jazz back in the 80s. A guy from Iowa, and I think he's still doing Iowa broadcasts for their basketball, like television broadcasts or radio broadcasts or something. But he played for the Jazz for a while, and he was just an awful free throw shooter, like 50% or something. I don't remember his exact statistics, but some guys just struggle from the free throw line. And I'm hoping that Kyle is not one of these guys, that he's actually trending correctly and he can actually improve from this, because his mechanics are solid.
Yeah, and I think you would say this, is that let's bring up 2 other players, Rudy Gobert, Walker Kessler. Both of them are not good free throw shooters. Both of them earlier in their career, Walker there, Rudy at the end of his career. When you look at them, you question whether they will ever be good free throw shooters. I think with Kyle, you would be surprised if he doesn't become a good free throw shooter. I think that's where you and I both are, is like, we're kind of baffled that he's not better because he has such a nice stroke. And I think he will be an 80% free throw shooter. Don't get me wrong. I'm just baffled that he's not better right now because he has such a nice stroke. But with Walker, honestly, I don't know if he'll ever be 80. And Rudy never got there, not close to that. And I think there's guys that never will get there. I think Kyle will. I think he'll have an 80% free throw percentage before the end of the
Yeah,
season.
I think he has a really good shot at it. I mean, there's no doubt. I mean, some guys just get it. It's a mental thing, and it gets in their head, and then they can never overcome that. And I get that part of it too. So, but I obviously, he played a couple years at Duke. This is his rookie season. He has a long way to go, and he has improved. So, as long as I see improvement, and the mechanic stuff is solid, I have hope for him. But anyway, so Kyle plays the 21 and a half minutes, but the other guys in the starting lineup, so Collin played tonight 19 minutes. He shoots 8 field goal attempts. He makes 7 of them. He goes 2 for 2 from 3, 5 assists, 3 turnovers, 18 points. I mean, another really solid night for Collin, and he seems to be fully over putting the episode where he was so frustrated in the rearview mirror, which I would totally anticipate that Kyle being able to put that in the rearview mirror, because that's the type of guy he is. And he seems to be solid again, doing good things. And this may be the final 12, these upcoming 12 games, I'd say are a reasonably good chance. These are final 12 games in a Jazz uniform. So for those people who are fans of Collin Sexton, I would say watch him now, because you may have to watch him on a different team next season.
Yeah, and I'm one of those. But honestly, wherever Collin goes, I'm rooting for Collin Sexton. Just his story, cleaning toilets, growing up with no money. There's no better stories than those. I'm a Collin Sexton fan wherever he goes, but I also find it a pleasure to watch him play basketball for the Jazz. So I'm glad he was there. I agree with you. I think the offseason Collin is probably moves on. And we both have said this repeatedly. We think that's a good thing for Collin Sexton because we're both rooting for the kid. We also think that's a good thing for the Jazz because we're looking for assets. Yeah. And by the way, and I mentioned this to you off podcast, Oklahoma City in this draft could have 2 high picks in this draft from trades that they made or picking up bad contracts. We need to do some of that as well, where we're picking punching these out. We get a draft pick from a team that looks like they're good. One of them is going to be a bad team. That's what you're trying to get with Collin and John Collins and some of these others, is you push them out there in the future and you give it to, even if it's a good team, that good team could be bad that year. They could fall apart like Phoenix is. And that's the game you have to play. You need to spread them around, have different picks for different teams. Because one of Oklahoma City's is Philadelphia. If they're out of the top 6, they get their pick. If Philadelphia goes to 7, Oklahoma City, the best team in the league, gets their pick. I mean, that's incredible. But they have another one that's going to be in the lottery too. And so that's what we're hoping for with Collin is, I want him to go and show what he can do, get 25 points a game yet. I am so rooting for Collin Sexton. But at the same time, I'm a big Jazz fan, and I want them to get assets back for Collin Sexton.
Yeah, I personally prefer draft assets. I want later picks, future picks, so the Jazz can be in the same situation that OKC is in right now, where you're good, but you have other picks coming in so that you don't necessarily have to be capped out in a capped out situation. You can move some of your higher paid players along and then bring in new guys to fill those roles at a lower price, because that's what you have to do. You have to have some productive players on a much cheaper contracts in order to have depth. You just can't, the way the salary structures are today and the punitive damages for those first apron, second apron, etc. I mean, it helps immensely to have some draft picks where you can get quality players in that are on rookie contracts, so that you're not just totally dependent on these really high-paid players. That's how you end up with little depth. So that's what I want the Jazz to do. I want more draft choices. More draft choices, just a variety of picks, and you hope for the best with those picks. You never know. Teams go up and down all the time. I mean, obviously, the trend these days is to put protections on picks that you do trade. I mean, that is certainly the trend. It's hard to get unprotected picks anymore, but still, a protected pick is better than no pick. So that's my feeling on it.
Yeah, but let me give you one, and I could be wrong about this, but I think this is what I heard, is that Oklahoma City has Atlanta's pick, I think, this year, and it's protected. If it flips to next year, it's unprotected. So, I mean, good gosh, you could see that team going like south, right? Particularly like if Trae Young went down. Like there's protection on it this year, but you get it where it rolls over. That's what you're trying to do, is you're trying to get variety where you go from different teams. Some are going to work out, some aren't. Like, Oklahoma City thought that they were going to get the Jazz's pick. They may get it next year, right? It goes down to top 8 protected. They may get it next year, or they may lose it entirely. That's fine with them because they've done so many. I mean, Presti is amazing. I mean, what a GM that guy is. What a machine. Yeah. He is. Yeah, he got lucky on Shea. We get that. You need to get lucky too. We all get, you need luck to win. But at the same time, his trading was unreal, what he was able to do.
Yeah, he's definitely done the best job in the NBA over the last decade. Yeah, the OKC doesn't have any titles, but they've put themselves in a position to contend at a really high level for a number of years, and that's what you want to do. And so they're always going to be in the hunt with this group of guys and all these picks. They're going to be in the hunt, and that's really all you can ask for. You can't control injuries, but you put yourself in a situation where you can be in the hunt, and that's what that's what he's done. I mean, he's just done an absolutely phenomenal job. He's done by far the best job of any other GM of any GM in the NBA. But
yeah.
For tonight's game also, so Collier also, he plays 28 minutes and goes 7 for 10, 2 for 3 on 3, which is really good for Isaiah. And he gets 6 assists with only the 1 turnover, 4 steals, 3 rebounds, so 16 points. Like really solid numbers again from Isaiah. And I can't say enough good things. My two of the first and second year players, the 2 guys I'm highest on right now are Kyle and Isaiah, and I will stick with that. Those are the 2 guys that have showed me the most in terms of skill level and potential to actually improve even more. That's my opinion. It's a singular opinion, but that's what I've seen to this point, and I don't see any reason to move off of that opinion right now.
In what order would you put those guys in? In that
as of right now, I'd probably say Kyle 1 and Isaiah 2, just because of that whole shooting thing with Isaiah. You never know. You never know if it's overcomable. I mean, I believe it is, but there's still a big question mark. So, but in terms of the value to the Jazz, in all honesty, it's probably Isaiah Collier, because the Jazz desperately need a point guard that can run the show. So in terms of value to the Jazz, where the Jazz are right now, I'd say it's actually Isaiah, just because the Jazz desperately need somebody who can run an offense. Now, on the other side of that, if the Jazz were to switch up their offense, Kyle could also be that guy running offense through him at the high post. So, I mean, it's hard to say. I'm not going to say one or the other. Ideally, both of these guys are really high-level contributors in 2 years from now that are obvious starters on any team. But we'll see. They still have a lot of room to improve before they get to that point.
Yeah, I actually agree with your order. Let me ask you one other question. Before this season started, and let's not talk about the second-year players, but let's talk about, of the 3 rookies, who did you think was the one, after watching them in summer league, after watching them in college, or if you didn't watch them in college like me, you watch clips of them, once they drafted, you watch clips to see like who that player is. Of the three, who did you think was going to be the biggest breakout this season?
I probably would have gone with Cody just because of where he was drafted, because I didn't know either. I mean, I saw Isaiah Collier play at USC a bit, maybe one part of a couple of games, but like it's so hard to evaluate that team because it was such a disaster with Bronny James and everything. It was just a mess. So it was hard to evaluate that team, and I didn't really watch Duke last year. I saw him a little bit in a couple of games, Kyle, but it was hard to say. So I would have probably just said Cody, just because, I really didn't see Cody play for the most part. I saw him even less than those other two guys. So I would have just said, I would have gone with what the scouts said, and I would have gone with Cody. But obviously that hasn't turned out, because Cody's obviously in the number 3 position in terms of the 3 guys we currently have.
Yeah.
It's hard to evaluate a guy in his rookie year too. That can always be a huge mistake for anybody trying to do that, because things can change drastically. But that's where we stand right now. Cody's in the 3rd position, even though he was the number 1 pick.
Yeah, and that goes to like Summer League too, is that if you go back and look at like MVPs of Summer League, many of those players never made it in the league because you can't tell at this point. And so, we're giving you our opinions right now this season because we're basing it on one season. We're in no way saying Cody Williams is not going to make it. We don't know. We don't know if Kyle is just going to tap out and not develop anymore. We don't know. We don't know if Isaiah is going to just like boom over the summer. No one knows. I mean, that's why when you hear analysts and other Jazz prognosticators like making judgments on, it's too early to do it. All you can do is based upon trends and what you think. You and I are both incredibly bullish on both Kyle and Isaiah, but we could be wrong, right? We're not saying that they're going to be stars in the league. We don't know at this point. The other guy, though, that I would add to the list, honestly, and it's I know what you're going to say and why you didn't add him to the list. I would add Taylor Hendricks to the list. Now, you're not adding him to the list because he had the horrific injury that none of us want to even think about. He doesn't want to think about. Boy, did he have a weird cap on tonight at the game. But he is a very interesting player. That man is massive now. You look at his upper body. I mean, he is big. He is athletic. He is a big guy. So, we don't know how he's going to come back from his injury, but I'm very bullish on him too. It's just, we don't know. But I think he was showing some real signs before he got injured. So I'm very bullish on him.
Yeah, he very well may be. I'm not going to even. That injury was so bad. I'm not going to speculate on what his. And I don't anticipate next year. I mean, I think next year is just a recovery year, and I don't know what his even timeline is for playing again, actually contact. I don't even know. I haven't followed it enough to know if they've even talked about that, what his timeline is going forward. Are Jazz going to try and play him in Summer League? Is he going to be ready to do that at that point? I don't know. I mean, it could be if he's ready to play at the time of the Summer League. I would assume the Jazz try and play him, but I don't know. I mean, that's only a couple months. It's 3 months from now, so I don't know. I'm not going to speculate on him. That injury just was gruesome. But anyway, the other 2 guys to talk about, I think that are worth consideration. Are worth consideration for the night are Keyonte and Brice. Keyonte goes 7 for 12. He scores 20. Brice goes 7 for 11, scores 17. Like I previously said, Keyonte plays 29 minutes. Brice plays 23 minutes. Both of them shot the ball really well from 3 as well. And, overall, those guys were terrific tonight. And it's really hard to really. I mean, Brice didn't have a whole lot in the other areas of the box score, but he did get 1 assist, no rebounds, which is a bit troubling. But Brice actually rebounded the ball reasonably well for his size. Yes, he didn't get any rebounds tonight, but But Keyonte did shoot the ball well tonight, and the 4 assists and 2 turnovers is a good number for him, a 2-to-1 assist turnover ratio. There's nothing wrong with that. And he scores 20 points, which is one below Filipowski for the high point of the game. Pretty solid. So both those guys played well.
Agreed.
All right. Well, do you have any other comments? Or just call it a night.
Did you want to talk about the Tankathon quickly?
Oh, yeah. Tankathon. One last thing. So the current Tankathon is results. After tonight's game, Washington moves ahead of the Jazz. So Washington has 15 wins against 53 losses. The Jazz have 16 wins against 54 losses. So the Jazz have played more games than Washington, but that one extra win is the key here. And the Jazz are only 1 win behind Charlotte right now as well. So it goes 15 wins for Washington, 16 wins for Utah, 17 wins for Charlotte, 19 wins for New Orleans. So seemingly the Jazz should be able to get in one of those top 3 positions, which we've always said was the main thing. Yes, we'd like to have that number 1 position, but the main thing going into the lottery, you want one of the top 3 because that gives you the best chance at the top overall pick. Each of those 3 teams has a 14% chance at that top overall pick. The difference is between those 3 picks is with the number 1 pick, you've limited yourself on the downside of getting a worse pick than the 2 or the 3 possessions. So that's the benefit of getting the number 1 pick. Hopefully the Jazz don't move to the 3 position. Hopefully they move to the 1 position, but I would be satisfied with being in the 2 position. As long as I get in the top in one of those 3 worst positions, I think they're in good shape going into lottery.
Yeah, I'm superstitious. I almost feel, I want to be the worst seed. At the same time, I'm superstitious that if you try really hard to get the worst seed, it's going to work against you. So I agree with you. I don't want to drop to 3, but if we end up at 2, it is what it is.
Yeah, and we'll be fine with that. So anyway, that's where things currently stand, and we will call it a night, and we will talk to everybody after the next game. For those of you watching on YouTube, please like, share, and subscribe. And on X, you can follow us at Jazz Smack. And we hope that everybody has a wonderful evening, and we will talk to everybody after the next game.